it's Carly from Improving Birth Abbotsford talking to you today about induction. I'm going to be doing a video series for our 25 Days to Question Your Induction campaign that we do every year at this time because tis the season of the holidays and a lot of inductions start getting scheduled. A lot of the time, care providers will tell you that you have low fluid, that your baby is small for dates, that you're having a big baby, that you're just going overdue, that you might as well just induce because it's the holidays. They'll give any excuse that they can to get you to agree to an induction. A lot of women will just think they have no choice. We're here to tell you that you always have a choice, and it probably, if you don't have an actual complication, it's probably best if you just wait for spontaneous labor. Only you can really decide if the risks of induction are worth it to you. There is a triple risk of having a cesarean as the result of a failed, I don't like to use the term failed, but that's what they use as a medical term. It's a failed induction. Basically, the doctors have failed to get you into labor with their drugs, and now they have to do a C-section. But it's not your body that failed, it's the fact that the baby just wasn't ready to come. So what it comes down to is, if you're a first-time mom and your body's not ready to go into labor, you have 3 times the chance that you're going to end in a cesarean. Now that may not matter to you. You may not care how your baby enters the world, or it may matter a great deal. You might not want a cesarean at all. You may want to avoid that whole thing. That may be the worst thing that could possibly happen aside from obvious maternal morbidity or something wrong with the baby, and you just don't want it. So you should know that if you agree to be induced, that is a very high possibility that you could end in a cesarean. The other thing is that labor induction is a lot more painful than spontaneous labor. It's harder on the baby, it's harder on your body. The way that they're doing it can cause you to want the epidural that you really didn't want in the first place. The epidural may not even work, because that's a possibility, guys. The epidural is not 100% effective. There are stories and there are actual evidence stating that the epidural may not work, or it may only work on one side. So pain relief options may change if you're being induced. Now, I've got this handy little book here that I totally endorse you guys to pick up. I'm not getting paid any money to endorse this book. They probably don't even know that I'm endorsing this book. It's written from somebody in the UK, Dr. Rachel Reed. She writes a wonderful blog that you should check out. But I love this book. I love this book. It's got mostly guidelines from the UK, but it completely applies here. It tells you what induction is, what your rights are, how to decide, the evidence. It's just a fantastic book, and I'm going to be talking a lot about the stuff that I've been reading in this book because it's totally relevant to what we're doing here. But today we're going to do numbers instead of what Abbotsford Regional Hospital has. As you know, we have the highest rate of induction in all of BC. If you've come to our rallies in the past, you may have seen our little board with our stats, and if you looked closely at the stats for induction, you'd see that Abbotsford is right at the very, very, very bottom for ranking for induction, meaning they have the highest stats in all of BC. That's a lot of hospitals in BC, guys. I am not kidding. I've gone through so many hospital stats, it's not even funny. But for Abbotsford, we have total number of hospital deliveries. We have 8 hospitals in Fraser Health, okay? 8 hospitals. And out of those 8 hospitals, Abbotsford has the highest rate of induction. Abbotsford is not the biggest hospital. Abbotsford has 2,546 deliveries as of 2015-16 statistics. And 31.9% of those deliveries were inductions. Now, you want to know the biggest hospital in Fraser Health? It's Surrey Memorial. And it was at 4,195 for 2015-16. And 26.9% of deliveries were inductions. Royal Columbian Hospital, second biggest, is 18.4% inductions with 2,874 of deliveries. So Royal Columbian would be the closest in the number of deliveries to Abbotsford Regional Hospital, and their induction rate is 18.4%. Okay, this is a little bit scary that Abbotsford Regional Hospital, which is close to Royal Columbian Hospital, but Royal Columbian Hospital being one of the more high-risk facilities with the NICU, has a lower induction rate. Just for fun, you want to know what Provincial Health is sitting at? BC Women's Hospital? 22.9%. That's the provincial comparison index for labor induction rates. You can get this one off of our Ask a Midwife event. We had the statistics in there. You can also get it in our file that's going to be for labor induction. I think I labeled it as 25 days to question your induction because that's basically the theme here. Tis the season, 25 days to question whether or not you really need an induction. I will be talking about that more in another video, about the risks and benefits, and then going into the complications and variations. But for now, today, we're just going to focus on Abbotsford because that's where we are. I've got some other numbers for you here. Did you know that if you take the number of 31.9% induction rates, you're getting, that's 812 deliveries for Abbotsford that were inductions. Okay? So 812 women were induced in 2015-2016. Now, if you look at Fraser Health's numbers here, Fraser Health as a whole has 15,569 deliveries of 2015-2016. And Abbotsford, again, I said, was 2,546. That's about 16.3% of the deliveries happening in Fraser Health. And the highest number of inductions in Fraser Health is being done by Abbotsford Regional Hospital, which makes 0 sense to me. It really does. Because Fraser Health's induction rate is 22.7%. That's 3,534 babies being born by induction. Now, you might be saying, well, you know, it might just be that they have a lot of complications. Well, I have those numbers too. I don't have it for individual hospitals. I wish I did. But if you look at it closely for Fraser Health, 26.0%. So 26% of deliveries that were induced in Fraser Health. So that's of the 3,534 deliveries, 918 were post-dates. Down here, pre-labor rupture of membranes. So your water breaking before labor starts. 1,102 deliveries for all of Fraser Health. That's 31.2%. Did you know, this is something I really, really want to know, is how many of these pre-labor rupture of membranes, how many of these women also had membrane stripping done? Because membrane stripping, routine membrane stripping, can lead to pre-labor rupture of membranes. And that is one of the risk factors, is that they say, hey, you want to have your baby today? And they do the membrane strip, or maybe they don't even tell you and they just do it as part of a vaginal exam. And your water breaks and labor doesn't start, then you're being induced. If you avoided that membrane strip, maybe you might not have had your water break before labor. We don't know. We can't really go back and say, oh, this is what happened. But it is a risk that you really need to think about before you have your membrane stripped, especially if they're asking you to do it before 39 weeks. You probably don't want to do it until 41 weeks, because at that point you're now past what's the average for a mom to go into labor, and you might want to deliver before 42 weeks. You never know. And it's really that membrane stripping will just make you go into labor 4 days before your body was actually going to go into labor. So if you were going to go into labor at 42 weeks, you might go 4 days before that if you have your membrane stripped. But again, it matters that baby has to be ready to come. And if baby's not ready to come, you're looking at an induction. Now, after we get those two things out of the way, which are the least complicated and still most common reasons for induction, now we're getting into the complications. Hypertension, which is high blood pressure. That is that is a complication that can lead to preeclampsia, and it is worth thinking about induction if you have high blood pressure with other symptoms. But hypertension in Fraser Health is only 12%. So that's 424 women that had hypertension that were induced. Now, here's the fun thing, is that that's 12% of the inductions, but only 6% of the residents of Fraser Health who delivered in Fraser Health. That's 934 women. So basically that means that 424 out of 934 women were induced for hypertension. So they may have had hypertension but didn't have any other symptoms out of those 934, and only 424 women needed to be induced for that. Any other maternal condition, which would be anything like even cancer, or you happen to have problems with your organs, anything, any complication for women, is 6.6% of inductions. So that's 233 inductions. Over here we have fetal compromise, so there's something wrong with the baby. 234 women, that's 6.9%. Diabetes, this is a fun one. For all of Fraser Health, anyone with diabetes, we're at 16% for diabetes. And that's 2,491 women had gestational diabetes or pre-existing diabetes. So 8.6% of diabetic or gestational diabetic women had their labors induced. That was the induction, the number of inductions done. So 8.6% of inductions were done for diabetes. That's 303.9. So we'll go 304. And then other, they just put other, 6.6%. So 233. So again, when you look at those numbers, the most common reasons for induction in Fraser Health are for a post-dates pregnancy and for pre-labor rupture of membranes. Now, that doesn't sit well with me, because their definition of a post-dates pregnancy for perinatal services is before 42 weeks. And the SOGC, the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, even states that before 41 weeks, induction does not need to be offered. After 41 weeks, induction should be offered, but not mandatory. Women are allowed to decide whether or not they want an induction or if they want to go for an additional monitoring. 42 weeks can be quite common for women. Some women just gestate that long, and their babies are fine. I have 2 friends. You met them at the rally last a couple of months ago. Wendy went past to 42 weeks, and Christine went to 42 weeks with their babies. That's just how they roll. And their babies were smaller than mine. And I went to 41 weeks with my son, and 40 weeks plus 2 days of which I went into labor at 40 weeks, but it was on and off until 42 weeks, or 40 plus 2, when she decided, okay, I'm coming. And it was almost 40 plus 3. It was almost midnight when she was born. She was born like 30 minutes or so before midnight. We don't have an accurate thing because she was a home birth and our clocks were kind of off. We set our clocks ahead a little bit, so we had to try and figure it out. But yeah, it's kind of disconcerting to me that 41 weeks is considered, oh, you have to, will induce you. And some doctors will even say, okay, you've reached your due date, I'll induce you for 41 weeks or even before 41 weeks. I've heard of that too. If you're just being induced for going post dates, you should know that when they say that the rate of stillbirth triples after 42 weeks or whatever, it's 0.01% going to 0.03%. That's the rate. It's 1 per 1,000 going to 3 per 1,000 by the time you pass 42 weeks. And that stillbirth rate may be significant to you. You may say, I don't want to be that 1 in 1,000. I don't want to be that 2 in 1,000. I don't want to be that 3 in 1,000. And that's perfectly fine. That is a completely legitimate reason to decide to choose induction. Only you can decide that. But if you're thinking, wait a minute, it's only a 1 in 1,000 chance and I have a 50% chance of ending in a C-section, I'll take the 1% chance. Or less than 1% chance, the 1 per 1,000 chance. And that's perfectly fine too. The thing you need to get out of this, if you get anything out of this at all, is that Abbotsford Regional Hospital is the highest in induction. Fraser Health really has restrictive guidelines on induction, and they are not evidence-based. And that if you don't have any complications of your pregnancy, then it is perfectly fine to consider not inducing. You have the decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to go to this scheduled induction, I'm canceling it. And you can cancel it. But we have a hashtag 25 days to question your induction. We did it last year. So you can go through and find all those articles. I've also put a hashtag, your baby does not have a calendar. And I'm going to be doing videos. This is getting a little long already. But I'm going to be doing a series of these with information from this book. Which again, I'm not getting paid for this. I just want you guys to pick up this book if you haven't already. Look it up on Amazon. If they say it's not available yet, try to find it on the other sites that they have it for. I'm not sure where they also have it. I'll have to post the thing again. I did post about this book earlier in the month. I will repost once I find the site. But seriously, guys, pick it up. It's called Why Induction Matters by Rachel Reed, Dr. Rachel Reed. And it is amazing. And I recommend everybody to pick up a copy. If you're being induced or you know a mom who's likely to be induced for just going over their due date, pick one up for her. It'd make a great stocking stuffer. Absolutely fantastic stocking stuffer, or whatever you want to call it. Holiday stuffing stalker, or just a birthday gift if somebody's got a birthday this month. Pick this up. Read it. It's fantastic. It's full of evidence. It's got Cochrane reviews mentioned in it. It's got stories from women who have actually been induced. And it's just a fantastic book, guys. And I will be touching up on it again in another video. But I just wanted to let you know what the numbers are for Abbotsford, and you can look all that stuff up again on perinatalservices.com for BC, and I reference it a lot in my reports and stats and everything. You can find all that stuff in our reports and our IB public files, and if you want, you can even go get the percentage calculator off Google and put your numbers in yourself if you want to see that I've got the breakdowns right, because it's all there. You just take the number, you put it into the percentage calculator, and it will tell you. It's a great tool. I love it. And yeah, so do the fact checking, because don't just take my word for it. Go out and look at the facts. Look at the facts and be like, okay, and then don't be afraid to question it, because that's what it's there for. It's there for you guys to question. It's there for you to look over and be like, okay, well, maybe she missed something, and then talk to people about it. Send this video to as many moms as you know, so that they know that they have options when it comes to induction, especially at this time of the season. Because guys, I'm telling you, if you look at the quarterly reports, induction levels are higher at this time of year, and in the summertime, around the time for vacations, but it's higher at this time of year, and it usually spikes around the holiday seasons. Doctors are human. They want to be with their families. There's policies in place. Their hands may be tied. They may not be telling you all the information that you should be hearing. And it may not even be their fault. It may just be that if they do that information, they may get in trouble if you say no. Or they're worried about liability. It's profit, convenience, and liability concerns is what it comes down to. And you, as the consumer of birth at maternity services, you have the right to say no. And you don't have to give any reasons why you don't want to have the induction. They have to provide the evidence for why you should. And also the alternatives if you decide that you don't want it. I will be touching up on that in another video. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Okay.